Black Mirror, Season 6, Episode 1. Joan is awful. Welcome back to another Floppyleggs YouTube video. We're here finally for the final season of my rankings and ratings and reviews, I should say. I'm really looking forward to going through this season. Season 6 came out in 2023. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this episode. Of course, it's got Salma Hayek in it. Valid. Of course, we're going to go through the episode. I'm going to rank it out of 10 and go through the story, the characters, the concept, and the twist. Leave a comment down below what you rate out of 10. Let's get into it. Spoiler warning ahead. The story, we follow Joan in her daily life. She wakes up in the morning. Her phone goes off, her alarm. She eats some breakfast made by her fiance. She goes to work. I don't know why I'm talking like that. She goes to work and she fires her colleague, one of the people that works for her. She rekindles an old flame with a previous lover, cheating on her fiance. She goes to therapy. She talks about wanting to be the main character in her own life. She feels like she's just a side character. She's just passive in her own life. She talks about the fact that her fiance makes really bland food, etc. And then she gets home and we see everything just spiral out of control. They go on to their version of Netflix called Streamberry, which I loved that they done something like that. It's very cool to see. And there's hundreds of Easter eggs probably in this episode, but most specifically, a lot of them are here in this moment. The Streamberry screen page where you can pick what episodes to watch. There's a reference to the first ever episode of Black Mirror with the Prime Minister days that it had there. There's hot shots again appearing everywhere pretty much. It's probably one of the most reoccurring things that you see in Black Mirror episodes. There's a Lock Henry episode, which is very interesting because that's the next episode in season 6. It has the actual documentary that was made in that episode. And then bang! They see Joan is awful, and it instantly clicks and resonates with Joan and her partner as they look at it, and they're like, "That looks that's Salma Hayek, but she looks like you." And then they put it on. Just imagine what this would be like. I literally was watching this because I couldn't remember it that well. I'll be honest. I watched this when it first came out, and I couldn't remember it that well. And I just imagine. You just saw something like that. Like, imagine I saw Floppy is awful. Would I watch it? Probably. And we find out why at the end of the episode. But she goes into it and it plays out her day and it unfolds. And we see what happened in real life, but dramatized and enhanced in ways that make her out to look awful. It shows her hooking up with her previous lover, Mac, but in a way that wasn't like real life. Like, she got done dirty, man. Like, she was made to look out like a horrible person with the firing of the colleague, the dashing the vape as well. She obviously spirals out of control. Her life goes down the drain. You know, her fiance leaves her. She gets fired from her work for GDPR reasons, which I think is the harshest thing in the world. She didn't even know that. Let me not. And everything just goes wrong. Even Mac doesn't want to be with her after declaring his love for her again because he doesn't want to be portrayed negatively in this show, which is just balmy, and it impacts her life basically wholeheartedly. She goes back home, she sees it play out again in front of her very eyes. Like, this is what is happening now. Like, this is every day is going to be on this show. So she goes to her lawyer and she finds out that there's a watertight contract that she signed. When did she sign it? When she signed up to Streamberry, the terms and conditions. You know, we just click the I accept button all the time, but it turns out that she allowed her likeness to be presented in a show like this. And it we'll talk about that in the concept, but it's mental that, you know, instantly that resonates with a lot of people because there's a lot of jokes about like, damn, we never actually read the T's and C's. Like, what's actually in this? What am I agreeing to here? I doubt we're agreeing to things like that though. So she starts to think, how can I start the process to take this down? And very similar to other episodes, I've been recording a lot of these today, Smithereens, she goes a bottom-up approach. And actually, I should probably use a different word there because she definitely goes from a bottom approach where she goes to the church and she alleviates herself. Is the only way. I hate toilet humor. I hate it. I hate toilet humor. I find it cringe and just unnecessary. But it was valid here. It was valid. It wasn't even humor. She had to do something extreme to get Salma Hayek's attention because obviously Salma Hayek has signed away her likeness to the show and they can use it in any way, which way that they want, as it is literally depicting Joan's life. And of course, it had her doing that, doing a number 2 in the house of God. And she's livid and she has a very paralleled conversation with her lawyer about the situation, showing us that these two are in a very similar position, basically being done in by signing something that they didn't know what they were truly signing for. Obviously, very different for Joan in this scenario because she just ticked a button to join Streamberry, whereas Salma Hayek obviously signed away her likeness to be in the show to represent her. And that's, of course, another thing that we'll talk on later on is, of course, this is all CGI, AI, deepfake. Like, that isn't Salma Hayek acting that out. They've just somehow recorded Joan's life and deepfaked these different people onto them to celebrities to promote the show and get people to watch it, you know, celebrity endorsement and that, which we'll talk about in a bit, because that, again, is very... it's real life. Very quickly, I want to say that obviously the episode is called Joan is Awful. We find out why it is Joan is Awful and not Joan is Lovely later on, as I'll get to. But it's interesting that it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. This show was called this, and it made Joan awful. It made her get arrested doing this thing. It made her, you know, go down this rabbit hole spiral. And I find that quite interesting as well, because if the episode was called Joan is Fantastic, would it have had another positive effect? You know, would she have elevated her life in some way? And of course, Salma Hayek, angry at her lawyer, leaves, and the next thing she thinks she can do, because she realizes she's now at the bottom really and not at the top, she goes to Joan to have it out with her, saying, why on earth have you done that? She thinks, you know what, I'll go top down. I'll try and make her stop doing weird things, and then hopefully I'll be depicted not doing horrible things on Streamberry. But once she finds out the ins and outs and how Joan never agreed to this and all of this, they agree to try and take it down from the very top, go to the head of Streamberry's office and destroy the quantum computer that has been running this whole thing. When they get there, Mona Javadi is having an interview and telling us, the audience, as well as the interviewer, why they are doing this. Why are they picking on Joan? Joan was just unlucky. She was the test subject. So what happened there is everyone was watching her episode. What they want to do is create an episode for every single user to make 100% match, you know, something designed just for you. And I imagine when they all start coming out, you know, not everyone in the whole city or the whole country or the whole world will be watching that one episode, the one show. Do you know what I mean? Like, Joan got really unlucky that her life was watched by everyone as the test, rather than when they release all of them, you know, it'll be so convoluted and diluted, you wouldn't be able to watch Fred is awful, Floppy is awful, Greg is awful, Sarah is awful. You know, you wouldn't be able to. There'd be too much to watch, so you'd get away with it. But she just felt she got the full force, the full brunt of the situation. And they make it about us because obviously we're inherently narcissistic people. We want to see more of ourselves, and they make it negative and bad because we are always looking for our own imperfections and our own, you know, negativities. We're always looking for that. So a show that like kind of validates them or exposes them, we're going to explore. And then it's just going to be a negative, as we saw, a negative cycle that causes you to be more bad, more awful, like it happened to Joan. And of course, as I said, they could have taken it a positive way, but this company only cares for clicks. And a very similar conversation I had about Smithereens and applications as a whole. Yes, as a business side of thing, I can't get onto you for that. You know, clicks means money. You know, engagement means money. So of course, you're going to do something that's going to improve the engagement, and they found their way of doing it. Ethical or not. So anyway, they break into where the office is with the quantum computer, or the computer I think it was referred to, and Michael Cera's there, and he's just like the guy in the chair making sure everything like works together. And this is where we get the big reveal, which obviously we'll go into a bit more in the twist, but this isn't our reality. This isn't the ground floor. This is phase one, which I found interesting that, you know, he says you're played by Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek, like you aren't Joan, like Joan is below you, the real Joan's there. And it's like this realization, like, oh, this is like a never-ending story. It keeps going forever. This quantum computer, you know, of course, the one after Salma Hayek is Kate Blanchett, and you know, after that it could be anyone, and then it goes on forever because they're trying to fine-tune the best content possible, and as it all dribbles down to the bottom floor, which is the real world, which we didn't even know we weren't in this whole time. And then inevitably Joan, or Annie Murphy, gets into the room with the machine with the axe, and she just says, I haven't got any control of this. Whatever the original Joan does, I will have to do. And obviously this is all depicted in the show for the real world people, which I found interesting as well. Like, you know, what we're seeing is the show from that reality. And yeah, she breaks it. The question of the ethical question that gets provided to her is like, you're killing all these people. You're killing yourself. You know, do these lives matter? Do they mean anything? And it reminded me perfectly, which we're going to go into a bit later on, reminded me perfectly of Rick and Morty, the episode of the battery, you know, where it's never ending, and he's using these living beings in this quantum battery to power his ship. I love Rick and Morty. And that episode is not too dissimilar to how this concept has come about. And of course, obviously, she breaks the machine, and then we see in the real world, the real Joan is getting arrested, as well as Annie Murphy. And it's basically the relationship we've seen Joan and Salma Hayek have in this episode is what Joan and Annie Murphy have had, because they were just reciprocating and copying their actions. And in the real world, she's speaking back to her therapist, and I think that was like it's such a little, not a little moment, but in the grand scheme of things of this episode, that therapy conversation that she has where she wants to be the main character of her own world, it is so different. Like that, it makes you re-see that conversation so differently, because she became the main character, and she's like, she addresses it at the end saying, maybe I don't need to be the main character. So it's like an interesting thing of like, not calling us out, the audience, but it is calling us out a little bit later on, but I'll talk about it later on. But it's calling us out maybe because we all would want to say that. I want to be the main character. But do you want to be the main character of your own story? Do you want to be a main character? Do you want to be in the limelight? Do you really want this, that, and the other? You know? And that's what she realizes in such a horrible way, but she realizes it nonetheless. The concept, okay? It is incredible. I literally, when I wrote my notes down, I wrote it in that way. Because that much stress on it. It's such a good concept. It's a show within 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 a show. It breaks the fourth wall. I love that. That's why I love Rick and Morty. As I said, it's inspired probably by that Rick and Morty episode. And it poses this question, because with something like this, it's a little bit trippy. It's a little bit, I've got to think about this properly. Like, what's what? It poses the question, what we were watching, was that even reality? Are we reality? And they created this show that's the show within a show within a show within a show, where we think we're the ground floor, but we're not the ground floor. Maybe we're not the ground floor. Maybe we're in the quantum computer, and maybe there's a version below us. Maybe there is a show. Like, do you know what I mean? It was Joan is awful. Like, mind blown. Like, it genuinely, it opens the door to such a fun conversation of like, this quantum computer, they thought they were living in the reality. We think we're living in reality. We're told that Joan that we saw was the base level. Who knows? There's no saying that we're not the base level. You can rewind it, bring it forward any way you want. And what I really liked about this is it was calling out Netflix, because like Streamberry is Netflix, and it was on Netflix. So it's like kind of like meta in that sense, that they're calling out themselves in the sense of how they managed to make this product. Like they seem quite ruthless and no empathy. We're going to create this just to get clicks. That is literally what Netflix will want to do, but they made an episode about something that makes them look bad. So I kind of like that as well. It's calling out the audience as well, basically calling us narcissistic. You know, you love watching things that represent you. We do. We enjoy shows where we can find some relation or and see ourselves in those shows to some degree, even if it's a character that is an alien from outer space. If it has some similarity to something that I have, I'll enjoy it more. You know, you like the fact that you can relate to certain things, and that's calling us out, the audience. You see that with reality TV as well. Like anything that seems real, whatever, you draw to it more. And it also calls us out because the reaction that the public or the locals in that area, the person that's jogging, gives Joan after watching one episode is so true to what real life is like. It seems like odd, but people are like that. You'll watch a 40-minute cut down version of a reality TV show and instantly say that person's a dickhead. You don't know them. You've not seen anything else of them outside that 40 minutes of a 24-hour day, but you make your judgments. We make our judgments. Us as everyone, we do. And that instantly happened for Joan in one episode. One episode of Joan is Awful made that runner, that jogger, instantly dislike her. Of course, she'd done some things that were poor. Obviously, it was dramatized. But come on, man. You chucked everything out the window. That's why I felt like it was a bit extreme how her life was falling apart. Like, it seems a bit harsh. Of course, though, it's elevated. It was dramatized because we're not on the base level. We were already in the quantum computer. That's one thing. But the idea that it was spiraling out of control in that way is because, like, she got fired, this happened, her husband left her, is because that's what we do as people, man. We're so volatile when we see certain things. You know, I already spoke about the deep fake and signing away your likeness. There was a whole thing, you know. Well, this came out in 2023. When were the writer's strikes? Around that period of time, I think. And the writer's strikes were all happening then, and that was basically, you know, actors and actresses very worried about this realm of AI. You know, whether it could write stories for you or even take our likeness away from us. You know, you don't even need extras on set anymore because you can just, you know, deep fake CGI them in. Again, the terms and conditions, that's scary. But I think the big thing that was also kind of subtly said, like throughout all of these videos and reviews that I've done, I've said this so many times. How does Charlie Brooker do it? How does he do it? It's so realistic, or it could happen. We all say it. That's why we love Black Mirror. And I feel like this episode is calling out people that always get onto Charlie Brooker. It was like, Charlie Brooker is the quantum computer. Like, he was like kind of saying like, yeah, I've got a machine that does it for me, mate. But like, that quantum computer was his mind. Do you know what I mean? That's how it works. Because what we saw in this episode was a show that was representing real life, is what Black Mirror is. So it's again kind of meta in that sense, that I feel like the quantum computer is Charlie Brooker. Yeah, brilliant concept, incredible, as I said. The characters in this episode, of course, aren't the characters that we think they are. Joan isn't Joan. Salma Hayek isn't Salma Hayek, etc., etc. But I did enjoy what it was shown to us. Annie Murphy as Joan. It was very enjoyable to see this progression that she went on and how she managed to do it. I enjoyed Salma Hayek's character in it. She was quite funny, but she was playing herself. But then, of course, it wasn't them. It wasn't Joan. Joan was Annie Murphy was Annie Murphy. Joan was Joan. Did it, mind blown. Characters, I think, were decent. And I really did enjoy, like, who's going to be playing what character. And, of course, the actress that plays the TV lawyer for Joan was in playtest as well. So there's like some callbacks to other characters and stuff. Yeah, enjoyed the characters in this episode very much so. I also liked the fact that when like Eric, I think his name was, the assistant, was watching the episode, and he was like, am I like that? Like it was like everyone was looking at themselves in this world. And like if I saw someone, like if I saw a friend of mine's show, I'd click on it as well, because I know I'm going to appear in it. Again, playing on that narcissistic sort of realm. Of course, the twist is the computer is, as I said, literally like the Rick and Morty microverse battery, I think the episode was called. But yeah, in that episode in Rick and Morty, it's a civilization that's inside a battery, and they power things. They're being told to power things. We've got to power things, and it charges the battery up to charge and power Rick's ship. So when the ship wasn't working anymore, he found out that they were, revolting, and they were actually there was a scientist in that world that built a battery just like he did, and built a sentient realm so that they could power their world from that battery. And it was a never-ending thing where this realm came, that realm, and they ended up getting it sorted. But I love Rick and Morty for that fourth wall break, or for that conversation to happen. And this is what this episode was. And I can't believe I forgot how much I enjoyed it, because it's such a good episode. But it's what I said at the beginning, like earlier on. It's the idea that we're watching a show about somebody watching a show about somebody that was probably going to eventually watch the show. But it's this idea that we could be in the show. We are the show. Somebody could be watching us, and we could go further back. I just love that. Or the show that we were watching, Joan is Awful, yeah? The one before that, the version before that with Joan and Annie Murphy, that could be based on someone in real life over here. It could be a regular Joan with Davina McCall. Davina McCall. Yeah, it could be someone like that. You don't even know who Davina McCall is if you're American. She's a TV presenter from the UK. You know, it could be Maya Jama. Let's say Maya Jama. Do you know what I mean? It could go further back. It could go further back. I love that. I love that sort of idea of like, what's real anymore? I don't know who I am or where I am. Am I real? You know? It's a little song I made up on the spot. And of course, the morality conversation of, are those lives worth keeping? Was it better for her to keep the computer alive? What would you say? What would you genuinely say there? Because there'd be definitely some people that would say they're living beings, man. They're living beings in that computer. Of course, the head of it all doesn't care. She just wants to get some money through the door. But there is definitely a debate there. They were living sentient beings, but they were manufactured in this computer. But are we in a computer? Is reality not real? I might break into song again. Let's end the video there. What would you do in that scenario? Let me know in the comments down below. More importantly, what would you rate it out of 10? I'm going to let you know what I rated it out of 10. I rated it an 8.5 out of 10. One of the top echelon episodes for me, in my opinion. I think it just opens so many conversations. It's a fun watch. It really unravels quite well. And I think the ending pays off. And I think that's a big thing for me in episodes of Black Mirror. It's got to be worth something at the end of it, which I didn't feel was maybe the case with Rachel, Jack and Ashley too. And some other episodes recently that I've reviewed. But this one ended strongly, very strongly. And kind of left you thinking like, I love when the rug is pulled beneath your feet. And you're like, what? That was the case the whole time? Yeah, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. And we're in season 6, man. We've got 4 more episodes to go before I've completed reviews of every single Black Mirror episode. Make sure you drop a subscription. I'd really appreciate it. I've been Floppyleggs, and I'll see you when I see you.